Good evening. There's a simple freedom most of us take for granted, the ability to walk through our own neighborhoods after the sun goes down, to stroll home from a late dinner, to walk the dog, or just to enjoy the quiet of the night. But for millions of people around the world, this simple act is, well, fraught with fear. A fear that shapes their lives, dictates their routines, and confines them to their homes once darkness falls. It's a primal fear, the fear of what lurks in the shadows, and honestly, it's a daily reality in many of the world's major urban centers. Tonight, we're going to look at the places where this fear is most palpable. We're not just talking about crime statistics, though they are a crucial part of the story. We're going deeper, into the human experience of that fear. This isn't about sensationalism. It's about understanding the lived reality of people in these communities. We'll be exploring a list of 7 cities, ranked based on data from residents themselves. Surveys where people were asked a very direct question. How safe do you feel walking alone at night in your city? Their answers paint a stark and often troubling picture of life in these metropolises. The feeling of safety, or the lack thereof, is a powerful indicator of a city's health and the well-being of its citizens. It affects everything from mental health to economic activity. So join me as we journey across the globe, from South America to Africa, North America and Asia, to shine a light on the cities where walking alone at night is considered the scariest. We'll try to understand the reasons behind the fear, and most importantly, hear the stories of the people who live with it every single day. Let's get started. Our journey begins in a city that has, for years, been synonymous with danger. Caracas, Venezuela. It's a place of breathtaking natural beauty, nestled in a valley surrounded by mountains, but its reputation is dominated by a persistent and pervasive sense of insecurity. The numbers are staggering, but it's the human cost that truly tells the story. For the residents of Caracas, fear isn't an abstract concept. It's a constant companion, a shadow that follows them from the moment the sun begins to set. The simple act of traversing the city becomes a calculated risk, a gamble that many are unwilling to take. Walking alone at night here is, for most, simply out of the question. The stories from locals are consistent and harrowing. They speak of a city where the rule of law feels distant, and where violent crime, from armed robberies to kidnappings, has become a grimly accepted part of the urban landscape. This isn't just about avoiding certain neighborhoods. It's a citywide phenomenon that has forced people to retreat into their homes, creating a self-imposed curfew. The streets, once vibrant with nightlife, often fall silent, emptied not by a lack of spirit, but by an overwhelming sense of fear. It's a reality that has fundamentally altered the social fabric of this once thriving capital. Next, we travel to Johannesburg, South Africa, a city of immense economic power and cultural dynamism, but one that continues to grapple with a legacy of division and a deeply entrenched problem of violent crime. Known locally as Joburg or Jozi, it's a city of stark contrasts, where fortified, high-security compounds exist just miles from impoverished townships. This inequality fuels a cycle of crime that leaves many of its residents feeling perpetually vulnerable, especially after dark. The fear here is not just of petty theft, it's of carjackings, home invasions, and violent assaults, crimes that are reported with alarming frequency. This constant threat has a profound impact on how people live their lives. Residents who can afford it invest heavily in private security, high walls, and electric fences, creating personal fortresses. But for the vast majority, such measures are an impossible luxury. They rely on vigilance, on traveling in groups, and on a deep-seated knowledge of which streets to avoid, and at what times. The idea of a leisurely nighttime stroll is a foreign concept. The fear is so ingrained that it dictates social plans, work hours, and the simple logistics of getting from one place to another. It's a heavy burden for the citizens of a city that holds so much promise for the future of the continent. We now find ourselves in Rio de Janeiro, a city famous for its spectacular landscapes from the Sugarloaf Mountain to the iconic Christ the Redeemer statue. It's a city that pulses with the energy of samba, carnival, and world-famous beaches. Yet, beneath this vibrant, sun-drenched surface lies a persistent and often violent struggle with street crime. The very places that draw millions of tourists are often the same places where residents feel most at risk. The city's sprawling favelas, often controlled by gangs, are a source of much of the crime that spills out into the more affluent areas, creating an atmosphere of unpredictability and tension. For the Cariocas, as the residents of Rio are known, navigating the city requires a constant state of hyper-awareness. Walking alone at night, particularly in areas near the beaches or in the city center, is widely considered a dangerous proposition. Stories of arrestões, or mass robberies where groups of criminals swarm an area, have created a deep-seated fear. People learn to walk without wearing flashy jewelry, to carry a decoy wallet with a small amount of cash, and to never resist if confronted. This isn't just caution, it's a survival strategy. A learned behavior passed down through generations, living in a city where breathtaking beauty and imminent danger exist side by side. Our focus now shifts to the United States, to a city that has become a symbol of industrial decline and urban struggle: Detroit, Michigan. The Motor City has been working tirelessly to reinvent itself, with a revitalized downtown and a burgeoning arts scene. But it cannot escape the long shadow of its reputation, a reputation built on decades of economic hardship, population decline, and, critically, high crime rates. For many residents, especially those living outside the gentrifying core, the fear of crime is not a relic of the past. It's a present and powerful force shaping their daily existence. Decades of news reports and crime statistics have woven a narrative of danger into the city's identity, and this narrative has a real-world impact on its residents. Many people are simply afraid to be out after dark. The fear is amplified by the city's physical landscape. In some areas, abandoned buildings, vast empty lots, and streets with broken or non-existent lighting create an environment where one can feel isolated and exposed. While city officials and community groups are making strides in improving safety, changing perception is a slow process. For now, in many Detroit neighborhoods, the sound of footsteps on a dark street is more likely to inspire fear than a sense of community. We return to South Africa, this time to the stunning coastal city of Cape Town. Dominated by the magnificent Table Mountain, it's often lauded as one of the most beautiful cities on Earth, a magnet for tourists. But, like Johannesburg, Cape Town is a city of profound contrasts and deep-seated inequality. The lived experience of safety can differ dramatically depending on which side of the mountain you live on. While tourists might enjoy the scenic waterfront and winelands with a sense of security, many locals, particularly in the sprawling townships of the Cape Flats, live in a state of constant fear. Gang violence, drug-related crime, and staggering murder rates in these areas make walking alone at night not just frightening, but potentially lethal. The statistics are grim, and they paint a picture of communities under siege. The fear is so pervasive that it dictates every aspect of life. Children are kept indoors after school, and adults rush home from work before nightfall, locking themselves behind doors and gates. Even in the more affluent, historically white suburbs, the fear of crime is a constant undercurrent, evidenced by the ubiquitous private security patrols and fortified homes. It is a city divided, not just by geography, but by the fundamental human right to feel safe. Our next stop is one of the world's great megacities, Mexico City, a sprawling, chaotic, and endlessly fascinating metropolis, home to over 20 million people in its greater metropolitan area. It's a global hub of culture, cuisine, and history. But living in such a dense and complex urban environment comes with its own set of challenges, and for many residents, personal safety is at the top of the list. While the city has made efforts to combat crime, a general sense of unease persists, particularly when it comes to being out alone after dark. The concerns are varied and widespread. There's the fear of express kidnappings, where individuals are briefly abducted and forced to withdraw money from ATMs. There is the constant worry about muggings on public transport or on dimly lit streets. This pervasive anxiety forces residents to adopt defensive behaviors. They share their live location with family members when traveling at night, avoid displaying expensive phones or electronics in public, and stick to well-known, brightly lit routes, even if it means taking a longer journey. For women, the fear is often magnified, with concerns about harassment and assault adding another layer of anxiety to the simple act of walking down the street. It's a mental burden carried by millions in this vast and vibrant city. Our final city is Manila, the densely populated capital of the Philippines. It's a city of incredible energy, resilience, and warmth, but one where the challenges of poverty, overcrowding, and inadequate infrastructure contribute to a significant fear of crime among its residents. Surveys consistently show that a large percentage of Manilans feel unsafe walking alone at night. This isn't necessarily driven by the same level of violent crime seen in some Latin American cities, but rather by a persistent fear of robbery, scams, and the general unpredictability of the streets after dark. The physical environment plays a huge role. Narrow, poorly lit alleyways, or esquinitas, are common throughout the city, and these are often seen as hotspots for opportunistic crime. The sheer density of people means that while you are rarely truly alone, it can be difficult to distinguish a potential threat from the anonymous crowd. Residents speak of the need to be mengat, or vigilant, at all times. They learn to recognize the signs of trouble, to avoid certain areas, and to project an air of confidence they may not actually feel. For many, the safest option is simply to be home before the streets become too dark and the crowds thin out, a nightly retreat from the potential dangers of the city. We've journeyed through 7 cities, 7 distinct cultures, but we've heard one common human story, the story of fear. From Caracas to Manila, the feeling of being unsafe on one's own streets is a heavy burden. It's a thief that steals not just possessions, but freedom, peace of mind, and the simple joy of belonging to a community. This fear is more than just a headline or a statistic. It's a lived reality that dictates where people can go, what they can do, and how they connect with the world around them. It erodes the social trust that binds a city together, leaving isolation and anxiety in its place. Creating safer communities is one of the most fundamental challenges of our time. It's not just a job for law enforcement, it requires addressing the root causes of crime: poverty, inequality, lack of opportunity, and the breakdown of social structures. It requires investment in infrastructure like street lighting, the creation of public spaces where people feel secure, and fostering a sense of collective responsibility, where neighbors look out for one another. True safety is built on a foundation of community, opportunity, and trust. It's a long and difficult path, but it's one we must walk together. The experiences we've discussed tonight are based on data and reports, but the most powerful stories are always personal. What is it like in your city? Do you feel safe walking alone at night? What are the areas you avoid, and what are the strategies you use to navigate your own neighborhood? We encourage you to share your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. Your story matters, and by sharing it, we can all gain a deeper understanding of this universal issue. Thank you for joining me. Stay aware and stay safe.